Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, you've got Q's, we've got A's. It's our 250th-ish episode spectacular. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark! Now I'm shouting at you. How are you?
I'm doing so good.
What is up with this? We're both like defaulting to kind of a higher volume.
Yeah, I feel like I generally speak really loud.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I'm a big mouth.
Uh-huh.
And
That's what we call you, Big Mouth.
we were talking about, I can't remember what it was earlier, like the Decemberists or something. And I realized that I was shouting at you. It's just the two of us in your apartment. It's not like we're like in a crowded like bar. Yeah.
Look, we have passionate things to say about the Decemberists, I guess.
And I think we're just excited in general
Yes.
to be celebrating our 250-ish
Ish.
episode spectacular. Although, in a neat bit of kismet, we are actually recording this before we record the news episode that will be our 250th episode.
Yes, because as many of you know, we start recording this show on Monday night at 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to be put in a position where we are starting the second episode at like 9:30.
Exactly.
No, thank you.
That's bedtime.
That's A, that's bedtime, and B, we usually do it. We usually start the second episode at like 9:30. But this one I wanted to make sure that we had all the time in the world. So, check the timestamp on the end of this episode. Is it all the time in the world? Have we done it? Have we podcasted to the end of time?
We might have.
We might have. There's no way to know at this point. For us.
Because you guys did such a good job of sending in questions for us to answer. But before we get to that,
Yeah, here's another thing that you can email us about: borrowing my copy of Sonic Forces.
it's super easy.
Yep.
You send us an email
Mhm.
with your mailing address or a mailing address that you want Sonic Forces to go to.
Yes.
You get put on a list. When it's your turn on the list, Patrick shoots you an email. And he's like, hey, do you still want Sonic Forces? Or like, did you
Well-
sober up and you're...
I usually
realized
don't.
your
I usually
mistake.
don't offer that out. Usually, I say, "Do you still live at this address?"
Oh, there you go. Because you've already signed that contract.
That's right. That's right. I apologize if your name is on this list. You will get Sonic Forces someday.
Patrick sends it to you.
Mm-hmm.
He includes return postage.
Yes.
It costs you nothing.
Nothing. It's the easiest thing in the world. So get on that list. All you got to do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
At gmail.com.
Here's another thing we're trying to do. We're trying to get to 100 reviews on Apple Podcasts.
That's right. I look like multiple times a week to see if we're getting reviews because they fill me with joy every time we get one.
That's right. Outside validation, very important to us.
And although I'm checking Apple Podcasts here in the US, we would really appreciate it if you rate and review this show wherever you get this podcast.
All reviews are welcome, so long as they're at least semi-positive, right?
Right. Constructive criticism accepted.
Yes, we will happily take that. Hey, Mark, speaking of constructive criticism, let's get into the topic of this week's show and all of our listener questions. All right, so we've got a lot of these.
That's right. To celebrate our 250-ish episode spectacular, we asked you guys to write in to us with any questions you have, Nintendo-related, not Nintendo-related, and you answer the call like the champs you are.
We've got something like 30 emails here to go through, so this is going to take as long as it takes.
Yep. I've cleared my schedule.
That's right. We are committed to you, just as you committed to us. Mark, do you have a question there that you would like to start us off with?
Yeah, let's just get into it. This comes from Andrew. My name is Andrew. I'm a big, albeit recent fan of yours. I was stoked to find out you guys have roots in the improv comedy world. It really does make sense to me because every other podcast I listen to regularly is filled with comedy stars of the UCB world. What I would like to know is, in what ways have Nintendo and comedy intermingled in your life? Does your passion for comedy influence your video game consumption or vice versa? Personally, I find myself attracted to more vibrant and colorful IPs and charming witticism in video games over edginess or grittiness. I do believe my sense of humor plays a large part in the games I take interest in.
Well, that's an interesting question. Because I do think that there's a more direct kind of connection between studying comedy and my taste in video games, but has less to do with like finding games funny. I One of the things that UCB specifically teaches is the idea of game in a scene or in a sketch, which is you find the one unusual or interesting thing, and then you find as many different ways to play that idea. So you're, effectively every scene is just one joke, 9 times or whatever. And that is what I'm drawn to most in video games, is when an individual level or even a game is like, we have one great idea. Here are all the different ways that great idea can be put into practice.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's something Nintendo specifically does really well. You hear all the time about their development process, which is something like they come up with a fun gameplay mechanic and then they decide what IP, like what characters or what like original characters the game should be based around, instead of like the other way around where they're like, okay, we got to make a new Mario game. What are we going to do?
Right. But I think there's also just like another side of it too. That's just like, I like to have fun. Like, have fun is one of my like primary concerns with a video game. Is, am I having fun doing it? I have had too many friends and gone through maybe like too many periods in my life where I was playing video games as like some kind of weird obligation to the game. And I mostly don't do that anymore. Like, if I'm playing a game, I'm having fun doing it. So I feel like that's kind of connected to comedy.
Yeah, completely. And I agree with Andrew where like I don't really like games or any media that takes itself super seriously.
Yeah.
And that's because I don't take myself very seriously. I take very few things very seriously.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult for me, or I take serious things seriously. But you know what I mean? But like
I do.
The things that like don't matter, like video games, when they take themselves too seriously, you're just kind of like,
Well, and I always, whenever a game is taking itself very seriously, and this is true actually of movies, of comics, of TV shows, anything, whenever they're approaching a serious topic, I want to know that they are approaching it with like the gravity the topic deserves, or with like an amount of expertise that the topic deserves. So something like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, they did a lot of research into living with mental illness and like what that it would be like as a sensory experience, and that shows in the game. And so like that is an example of a game tackling a serious topic and like doing it seriously and like being responsible about it. And I don't always my default isn't to assume that everyone is approaching heavy topics responsibly.
but it for sure can be done in games.
Totally.
Yeah.
From time to time. But if we're just going to be like a fat little plumber cartoon running around, jumping and having a great time, like, I'm there. I'm on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew says, I'm also curious to know what podcasts you guys listen to, video game related or not. Any recommendations? So I listen to a few video game podcasts. I like Axe of the Blood God, which is usgamer.net, their RPG podcast with Kat Bailey and Nadia Oxford. I also listen to Retronauts. That's pretty much, I think, the video game podcast I listen to. I listen to a lot of history podcasts and a lot of like filmmaking and theme park podcasts.
A lot of theme park podcasts. What are your theme park podcasts?
I listen to a show called Retro WDW, which it's like 4 people who actually just started a nonprofit organization to chronicle Walt Disney World or like Disney company history.
Cool.
And they basically talk about, the Disney World that they grew up with in the 70s and 80s, and do a lot of research, get some really great interviews on. It comes out like once a month. It's a really good show.
Yeah. Cool. So I get for me, I do listen to video game podcasts. I subscribe to IGN's Nintendo podcast, the
Nintendo Voice Chat.
And then I dip in and out on Beyond, their PlayStation podcast, and I'm a longtime fan of GameScoop. I think Damon Hatfield is one of the very good video game podcasters. I think he's great. I also dip in and out of Kinda Funny's content. I like that Greg Miller a lot. So anytime he's hosting a Kinda Funny Games Daily, I'm there for it. but their coverage has gotten very like focused on like games as service games. So when they're talking about like Destiny or Destiny 2 or The Division or
Division 2.
Yes, that's right. Or no, what was the one that just came out?
Anthem.
Anthem is the one. All these games, I'm like, oh, I don't care about this at all. I've been quick to duck out of those. And then I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts as well. So, Comedy Bang Bang, Freedom, with special guest Lauren Lapkus, and then the Doughboys I listen to. Love the Doughboys. And then I listen to Pod Save America and Trumpcast on Slate. And we'll dip in and out of a lot of stuff that Slate puts out because I think they do some interesting audio programming. Yeah, I would say that's, and then of course, I listen to my own other show, Same Day Shipping, and Teen Creeps. Kelly has been on the show before. They talk about YA Pulp Fiction, and that is a good show, whether Mark or I are on it or not, because we have both been on it. But it's a good show all the time.
Finally, Andrew asks, do you guys have any plans for a live podcast anytime soon?
Oh, we have not talked about doing another live show.
No, we've only done one. It
Yep.
was E3 last year that we did in collaboration with the
Unranked podcast.
That's right.
That's right.
But no, we should do one again.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah, and that would likely be something that would happen here in LA because we're not at a place where we would travel with the show, I don't think.
I mean, unless, you want to invite us to.
Look, if you want to invite us to your living room, you have to guarantee a crowd of at least 12 people?
Yeah, in a living room, that should be plenty.
That's plenty. All right, cool.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much. So here I've got 2 emails from Elliot. I'll start with the first one. Hi, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. I have a 2-part question for your upcoming listener question episode. I was wondering if the choice was yours. If the choice was yours, who would you elect to be president of Nintendo of America, regardless of their background? And if you guys had the job, what would be your first executive order?
Who would I elect
Who
as
would you
president
elect?
of Nintendo of America? I don't know that I have a good answer for this because I feel like Nintendo of America has been pretty well run. I don't know that I would do anything necessarily different.
Yeah, well, and because you also sort of wonder, like, what real. I mean, I'm sure Reggie was doing things that more than just like our the customer facing stuff, but I almost feel like they mostly take their orders from Japan, right?
Yeah,
And just sort of
that
like
seems to be the vibe you get.
yeah, and like tell us how to package this thing for American audiences.
Yeah, from what I can tell, it seems like the position is a lot of like marketing stuff,
Mhm.
and then I'm sure a lot of logistics.
Yeah,
But
totally.
as far as like creative decisions and like game development decisions, that seems to all come out of Japan.
Yeah, totally. And there probably is a lot of like, deciding what to bring over to the States. Like I'm sure that NOA has a lot to do with that. So I
And a
don't know.
lot of like when they introduce something like how much should we charge for it?
Yeah.
Should it become in a bundle? Which like holiday bundles should
Yeah,
we
totally.
like all that stuff that is very complicated.
Yeah. So I don't know, some businessman.
But like a nice businessman.
I totally want like a nice businessman.
Like Doug Bowser, maybe?
I don't think that's an option in this scenario. But just for the sake of conversation, I will say that I will elect Mark Mitchell.
And I shall elect Patrick Ellers.
Very good. What would our first executive order be?
Man.
You know what I'm gonna do?
Yeah,
I'm
please.
gonna do it. Mother 3. Mother 3 comes out.
You're just doing it for popularity. You don't want to
Yeah,
make the hard choices.
Of course, that is not a hard choice. It would probably cost a ton of money because like you have to. There's like music licensing problems and like character licensing problems, right? The thing is like wrapped up in some weird legal mumbo jumbo. But I would get it out. I'd spend the money, figure out a way to put it out, and put it out.
I also think there could be some like questionable racial component to it, where like
Mhm.
like caricatures that wouldn't really fly here. That's the rumor of what like actually killed its release, because I think the other rumor is that it has been localized essentially.
Yeah.
Like the work is done, but it's just never been released. You know what? I would give the people what they want and bring an N64 Classic Edition.
Oh, boy.
Whatever I had to do to make that happen with GoldenEye and Banjo-Kazooie on it.
Yeah, so we're making big promises.
But that's what being president is all about.
Okay, so Elliot sends a follow-up email and says, I just thought of another question while listening to this week's episode on the flight. If you could only have one Mario power-up, wait, hold on. If you could have one Mario power-up, what would it be? So this isn't, I guess, while playing Mario. I assume this is in real life.
In real life.
Right. The only catch is the power-up activates for only 3 minutes once every 3 months.
I think the Tanuki suit would be great.
Yeah. What would you do with that Tanuki suit? Just be adorable?
And just, like hover around.
Right. Turn into a statue.
Just being like cute. Not have to go upstairs, just kind of hover.
So on that same topic, I would say the bee from Super Mario Galaxy 2.
I think from the first one.
Maybe the first one, yeah. Because I like honey, crawl around in it all day long. I can fly a little bit, and I could avoid getting wet for 3 minutes, I think. Also, adorable, right?
Yeah, they should bring that bee suit back.
I agree. Thank you, Elliot. Good question.
Our next question comes from Jason. Having been a listener since nearly the beginning of NCS, it's always impressed me that your show had so many of its features and music set from episode 1. The show has become better over time, but it started out surprisingly polished. Thank you, Jason. That's actually really nice of you to say. Nobody ever go back and listen to those first episodes.
That's right. No one has permission to do that.
What was your experience in podcasting prior to NCS, and how did it contribute to your development of the show? Like examples, the 8-Bit Betty's music, 433, keeping the commonly bloated off-topic beginning segment short.
So I had not had much experience in podcasting before.
Yeah.
I think so. I had recorded a couple episodes of a podcast called My Name is Weezer, with my friend and one of our previous guests, Jen Kleinrock. It was just all about the band Weezer, and we recorded the first 6 or 7 of those episodes years ago and just shelved them forever. And so I don't remember whether that was already out and then you and I started working on this show, or if they came out at about the same time. But this show was the first time that I was doing a regular weekly podcast.
Yeah, and I had listened to a lot of podcasts before, but this was definitely my first experience participating in one or producing a podcast or anything like that.
Yeah. And so their question about the format, or
and
8-Bit Betty?
How did it contribute? How did our previous experience contribute to the development of this show? It's actually weird because this show kind of came out fully formed. When we were first talking about it, Patrick had the idea for 433 and felt very strongly that was something we wanted to include.
Mm-hmm.
And it took us a little bit of time to figure out how we wanted to, I don't know, it was always a goal to keep it Nintendo focused and to not get too sidetracked in our own nonsense. But if you go back and listen to the earlier episodes, there definitely were times where it was a little more protracted, but we're very conscious of the fact that people are coming to the show to hear about Nintendo and not hear about me buying underwear.
Right. But we still want to have an opportunity to talk about that. And I think having it into the body of the episode helps a little bit. 'Cause I know that is a thing that all kinds of big shit, My Favorite Murder is the one that comes to mind for me, that people are the first hour of or so of the show now has become just them cracking wise for a while, and then they get to whatever the topic is. And if you love the hosts, that's fine, and that's what you're there for. But I think we always want, we can express ourselves and our personalities while we are talking about Nintendo and going through the news and talking about what games we're playing. So I don't know, it's not even that we don't want to be self-indulgent. The show,
I mean, have you met us?
Yeah, the show feels self-indulgent as it is. I think it helps us both, I think, to have a schedule of things to talk about, and then we can deviate from that from that skeleton. But if you're just okay, here's the junk bucket up front, fill it with as much garbage as you want, I don't know, that feels a little too nebulous to me.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how 8-Bit Betty came to do our music?
Yeah, sure. So 8-Bit Betty is a guy named Brian Teo that I went to college with. I played in a band in college called Dennis. It was a piano, bass, and string quartet. like outfit that was the group. And Brian was doing 8-Bit Betty stuff at the same time, and so we played a lot of shows in Appleton, Wisconsin together. And I don't know, I just wanted us to have, if we could have just one thing sound great in that first episode, I was like, yes, that there's not as much pressure on you and I to also sound great. And so, yeah, I reached out to Brian to see if he would be interested in doing this music for us, and he was, and it's great because everything he does is great. And I refer people to 8-Bit Betty at the end of every episode we record, but like for real, if you haven't gone and checked out his music, it's all great. So go do that.
And the other thing that I think helped this show seem fully formed when it first came out was that we did a run of like test episodes.
That's right.
That we never like published or anything, just so we could kind of get our bearings and the basics of a flow of like what we wanted the show to be.
Mm-hmm. And before you ask, I don't know where those episodes are. I don't believe they
guarantee
exist
you don't
anymore.
want to listen to them. I guarantee it.
Yeah, they're gone. They're gone. But like the first one that we did, we talked about Sega.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Because we were like, we don't want to like burn a topic episode.
Yeah, little did we know that we would have to do 125 topics.
Yeah. Jason has a corollary. He says, how did you come up with the strategy of dividing entries and ranking episodes into tiers, then discussing the tiers to complete the ranking? I've listened to a lot of podcasts over the years that were too difficult to follow because there were too many things being ranked at a time, or were boring with no discussion because the host already decided on the list and show prep. Your solution made the possibly no longer definitive rankings of Zelda and Metroid among the best podcast episodes of their type. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. That's very nice.
It just kind of grew organically.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think something to keep in mind is that we don't have a like a whiteboard or anything like that where we are writing these things. And I think if when we are using a visual aid, we are using Amiibo with Post-it notes on them usually. So like we have to do something ourselves to keep track of what we're doing. And sometimes Mark and I will come into a ranking episodes with our own like separate lists and try to like reconcile them. But I think in recent months or years, we've started coming to it with just sort of like our preferences in mind, so that we know we have to like work it out on the fly. And that seems to be just like the easiest like verbal way to group things.
Yeah.
And go at it.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, it's just easier for us. All right, we've got a question here from Corbin. Couple of questions. I apologize. Couple of questions. Now that Switch lets you sort titles by time played, which are each of your top 5 most played? Mark, do you have any idea what your top 5 most played are?
Yeah, so I'm doing this off the top of my head because I had looked I looked a couple of weeks ago when we were getting ready for our like favorite third-party Switch game titles, and it's like Breath of the Wild is number 1, Stardew Valley is number 2. I can't really remember the next 3, but like Mario Kart is up there, I think. Oh, Super Mario Odyssey is up there.
Yeah.
Splatoon 2, and I can't remember, but like yeah, that's mostly.
So my top 5, I'm looking at my Switch now, is Breath of the Wild at number 1. Number 2 is Tetris 99. No surprise there. Number 3 is Super Mario Odyssey, which is also kind of no surprise. Sarah and I both played through that game separately. So it's got 2 playthroughs on it, on here. And then Puyo Puyo Tetris at number 4. I play a lot of Tetris, you guys. And then at number 5, this one kind of surprises me, is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Oh, wow.
And then Super Smash Brothers right behind that at number 6. So those are our top 5 and 6. Corbin asks a second question. He says, was that accurate that you said you recorded 8 p.m. on Monday night? How the heck do you edit and release that by the time I wake up on the East Coast at 6 a.m.?
Patrick produces the show live.
I produce the show live.
So as we go on the fly, there's no like editing after the fact.
Yep.
So as soon as the news episode is done, we export it, send it to like the podcast network, and they help disseminate it everywhere at midnight.
Yep, that is it goes up at midnight Pacific time. So by the time you wake up at 6 a.m. in New York, this thing has been there for 3 hours already. But yeah, when I play a music cue, it's happening live. I'm queuing that all up as we go. Very occasionally, I mess up the music cues as we're going, so we will go back and like trim that real quick. But yeah, otherwise everything you're hearing, we're not editing for content. And I think, again, to the earlier question, part of us having the structure that we have keeps us from having to edit a bunch of stuff out. I guess that's another thing maybe to point out is that, well, you're coming over at 8 o'clock to record. We've got all the news down already. We've, in the document, we've already said like what games we've been playing this week. We've got the new releases all listed out. And, basically when you arrive, we come up with how the show's going to start, what we want to talk about for 4:33, and basically that's it. Like everything else is already prepared. So we're usually recording by like 8:15, and then it's produced live, and then it gets out to you as soon as it's done.
Here's a question from Chris coming to us from Northern Ireland.
Whoa!
Says, "Hey guys, loving the podcast and also very entertaining. Yes, I've left a 5-star rating on iTunes, so you guys deserve it. Thank you, Chris. I've got some questions for you. One, will you do an episode based on the movie The Wizard?
A funny coincidence. We have done an episode based on the movie The Wizard.
With special guest Ryan Mogi.
Yep, she's sort of become our go-to movies about video games as she did the Super Mario Brothers movie with us. This one's from a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it was probably from the first year of the show.
Yeah.
But maybe we should do like a revisit of it because we've changed a lot since then.
I mean, I can't disagree with that.
Chris,
maybe that could be a live episode.
That would be fun.
We can screen the movie and talk about it.
Also, we're in LA. I wonder if we could get people involved with the movie to come out, like Jenny Lewis.
Yeah, or even Fred Savage.
Yeah,
let's do it.
What for you is the most overrated and underrated Nintendo game on any consoles?
Oh my gosh. Game and not franchise. We're talking what is the most over and underrated game?
Yeah, it just says game. Overrated is hard for me because if something isn't to my taste, I have very specific tastes in what I like in video games, so I think a video game could still be like really good and not something that I necessarily enjoy. So that one is hard.
I'll say an overrated that I don't know that I necessarily think it's over. I'm just gonna say it. Super Mario All-Stars. I like all of those games, obviously, and they're they're all very good games, and I'm happy that that's where a lot of people experience them for the first time. But my heart belongs to the NES originals on all of those. And anytime I play Super Mario All-Stars versions of 1, 2, or 3, they look wrong, they sound wrong, and I'm just like, this is not what this game is. And I know people hold that as like the best, like Super NES cart ever, and I'm just like, okay, well, calm down. It's got good games on it.
Well, speaking of best Super NES cart ever, I think the one I'm going to call overrated is Donkey Kong Country 2.
There you go.
Patrick and I played through that for a now defunct or on hiatus segment or like series of shows we did, NCS Classic Edition, where we played a retro game and then talked about it as we like went through it. And I love the original Donkey Kong Country, but I had a really hard time enjoying Donkey Kong Country 2.
Yeah. Yep, I hear that. And then do we have any
underrated?
I mean, I do think that Donkey Kong Jr., the original arcade game and the one that appeared on the NES, is for me the best. I think it's better than the original Donkey Kong, and it's obviously better than Donkey Kong 3 because no one should play Donkey Kong 3. But I feel like that game gets left out of the conversation of like notable early Nintendo arcade games.
And I'm going to say Luigi's Mansion. Although I think its esteem has grown in
totally.
More recent years, but when it first came out, people were super disappointed. And it's not a game without flaws, but I still think it's a little underrated as far as Nintendo first-party titles go.
Yeah.
Another question. You've to sell Nintendo to someone. What gaming memory do you use?
What gaming memory do I use? So after I graduated from college, I worked as a hall director at the college that I had gone to, which means that I was there in a professional capacity. I was there to oversee the residence life staff, the RAs, basically. And I lived in the building, so my job most of the time was like just be available for people. I also had like a very minimal like office job during that time, but it meant that I was just there. I was just in my apartment all the time. And this was the year that the Wii came out, and I had gotten one, and because my living expenses were paid for, and I didn't have to pay for food because I could just eat at the dining hall for free. I had 4 Wii remote. Like I went all out on the Wii. I was like, the Wii is my jam, and we're all gonna all the time play Twilight Princess and WarioWare Smooth Moves and just Wii Sports. And between those 3 games, there were always people in my apartment, always playing. And like the coolest thing to me was that when I would play Twilight Princess, there would just be like 8 people in the room, and as soon as I would like collect the treasure inside a dungeon, there would be like 4 voices being like, oh, remember, you got to use that back here, and someone else being like, oh yeah, and there were those tracks over here that you can now use that on. It was just such a like cool unifying experience. That would be my go-to to sell someone on Nintendo.
Yeah, and mine is actually pretty recent, but I kind of had this experience with my husband, and it was Snipper Clips on the Switch. Because he is not a video gamer. I've talked about it before on the show. He just doesn't hate video games. It's just never been a part of his life, and so he just like doesn't even think to play them.
Yeah.
But when the Switch first came out, I got Snipper Clips, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to try this with me?" It was a game that we could play together, and we have so much fun. Like Snipper Clips was the perfect game to introduce somebody who was not familiar with video games to like the idea of video games. It's very cute.
Yeah.
It's very it's challenging, but you have to work together. When you succeed, it feels amazing. Most recently I like played it with some other people who had never played Snipper Clips before, and it really is just like I think a really good entry to what Nintendo does well.
Yes.
And I think the Switch is such a perfect console for this, just like pick up and play with friends.
Yep. Yeah, one of the things I love about Snipper Clips is that it has that very like, if you think something should work, it does. Like there are no like non-understandable rules about that game. You look at it and you're like, I cut you into a shape, and then if that shape can like function in this world of physics the way that you think it should, and it always does, then like you'll be able to solve the puzzle. Man, what a good game.
And lastly, what game series can you bring back from any platform to the Switch? Chris, he says, mine is Dino Crisis. And Chris, yes. Capcom, hear our prayers.
Please.
Dino Crisis is the perfect series to bring back, as long as it's like in the vein of Dino Crisis 2. Resident Evil with dinosaurs, that's an amazing premise.
Now, by Dino Crisis 2, hadn't it gone like too actiony at that point? Or
no, I think Dino Crisis was like the perfect. It's not like Resident Evil 4, but like the perfect
okay.
Resident Evil 4. It's a little bit in between, like it's a little bit more action,
yeah,
but not as far as like Dino Crisis 3.
Mm-hmm. And also let's like make it a whole like a remake of Dino Crisis 1 and 2 together, because I remember being so blown away by the like split paths in Dino Crisis. It basically took the Resident Evil idea of there being like 2 full games in there, but you had to just sort of like make the choices to actually experience like a different linear path on there. But I guess to answer your other question, what game series would we?
Yeah, would you bring back to any from any platform? So it doesn't just have to be a Nintendo property.
I mean, I still want to see what a modern Star Tropics game looks like.
I think that's fair.
I will beat that drum forever. Mark, you got one?
No, I totally agree with Chris. I think Dino Crisis is a great answer.
Excellent. Here we have an email from James. He says, hi guys, here's a question for your 250-ish show. What are your top 5 live action superhero TV shows? New or old, any channel or platform? To get us started, here are James's. Number 1, The Flash on CW. Number 2, Punisher on Netflix. Number 3, Daredevil. Number 4, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. And number 5, Agent Carter.
I don't know that I can list 5, but I'm saying that, and maybe actually when I think about it, I can. Sorry, did he specify that it has to be live action?
He did specify live action.
Okay, that makes it harder.
Yeah, he goes on to say you can have a bonus mention for animated shows as well, but I guess I can probably guess your favorites on those: Batman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
But also, why isn't the X-Men cartoon in there?
Because it's not very good.
Yeah, but it was one of my favorites.
Okay, so I really enjoyed The Flash on CW for the first 2 seasons. I thought it was great. I kind of fell off after that. It got a little dark for me from like what I wanted from the Flash show.
Yeah,
and
sure.
what I liked about it initially. I have not really cared for any of the Marvel Netflix shows that I've seen, but I also enjoyed Agent Carter, and I wish they would bring that back for Disney Plus.
Yeah,
but I think those are the only live action ones that I've really ever watched.
Yeah, I have also not watched too many of the, like, on just about all of them I watch a couple episodes and then I'm like, I don't really need this in my life. But I have enjoyed nearly every episode I've seen of Legends of Tomorrow. I think that is like, it is just perfectly campy. Like, it knows what it's doing and feels very much like early Buffy the Vampire Slayer or whatever, and just like being very aware of itself and smartly written, and a bunch of attractive people on screen. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then I also really liked Agent Carter. And then Jessica Jones, the first season of it, I liked as well. But that leaves me at 3.
I liked the first season of Legion.
Yeah, I liked the first season of Legion.
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of tapped out at that point.
Yeah, because I didn't care for Runaways, the series. I tell you what, I watched too many seasons of Heroes to not mention that, though I hated it. Thank you, James, for the question.
From Martin, he says, as part of the celebration, I'd love a 433 amnesty. The many of us who have been on tenterhooks for things we will never know need our resolution. My burning questions are, 1, what, in addition to the DuckTales theme, did Patrick sing whilst skiing?
Okay, all right. So the premise of this question is we cut ourselves off at 4:33 when the applause comes, and so we stop talking. We say, I guess we'll never know. So the first question is, what else do I sing to myself while skiing other than the DuckTales theme song? I don't remember what track I was on when I was saying that.
I know
it is likely that the other song is the Chippendale Rescue Rangers theme song, and I'm sorry it's so like it seems like that would be the other song, right? Because they're both part of like that Disney afternoon. But it also could be any song from Les Mis, because when I was learning how to ski, that was that's very much associated with our trips up north to go skiing. So I was probably singing Master of the House is what we'll say the answer to that question is.
Number 2, what was the guy's reaction in Borders coffee shop to Mark's cough? Okay, so the setup to the story is that I have a very specific laugh, and I worked at Borders, and I was up back when that was a thing, like a bookstore, and I was up at the registers. I was talking to another employee, and I was laughing because and I laugh very loud. So an old man came all the way from the back where like the coffee shop, and like he was just hanging out there, all the way to the front of the store, and like walks right up to me and is like, that's really annoying,
Whoa.
So that's how that ended.
That's how it ended?
Yeah, I mean, what am I going to say to that?
I mean, I don't know. Tell him that's annoying?
Yeah. So that's how that ended.
Terrible.
And then finally, being alive was Patrick's primer to Sondheim, and it was how he... ... Yeah.
Well, so that's how I decided to like get into Company, and that has grown my appreciation for Sondheim in general.
And Martin says, I care most about number 3 from Halloween 2017. He says Mark's comments about Into the Woods are the only time he has made me sad.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Martin. It's like we were talking about earlier with video games. I appreciate that. Like, I appreciate the craft of Into the Woods, even though I don't enjoy the show.
Well,
personally.
and also Sondheim fans, I'm putting you on blast. It's time you recognize that being a Sondheim fan that's an acquired taste. No one is born liking Sondheim. You have to learn to like Sondheim. He's like jazz or wine. Like, you have to make an effort.
Well, here we go. But Patrick saved the day by saying he had got into Company. The Marianne Elliott production, which is soon moving to Broadway from the West End, is wonderful. If you ever get to NYC, check it out. Thanks for all your hard work, Martin.
Oh, I actually just downloaded the cast recording from this. It's great. Don't Tell Them We're Not Getting Married is now about a gay couple who's getting married, and not a man and a woman, and the lead is a woman. Bobby is a woman. It's great. And, like, it's amazing how much of the themes of Company and, like, finding relationships. The genders don't matter in that. Like, let's mix them all up. It's great. I really enjoyed that cast recording. So I will try to see it if I'm in New York sometime.
And Martin, this is 100% me trying to ingratiate myself into your good graces, but I like Company a lot. But I'm not afraid of Greg Smith.
No one buys it. Greg Smith has been writing in over and over to say Mark should like Company. All right, here we have an email from Jason. Hey, Jason, hi, Jason.
Yeah, hi.
This is a friend of mine from back in Wisconsin. Jason says, hello. Feel free to answer some, all, or none. I hope all is well. So we're going to answer all of these. He says, does Mark realize how similar his Twitter handle is to the name of Milwaukee's Mitchell International Airport, for which the airport code is MKE?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Do you get a lot of emails accidentally for Milwaukee International Airport?
I don't, thankfully. But I use that as, like, my handle on, like, PSN and stuff. And when I'm playing online, people always just go like, hey, Mike, which, like, makes total sense.
Yeah.
But Mark Mitchell is such an immensely common name that it's really hard to get an email address.
Yeah, totally.
That has Mark Mitchell in it.
I mean, maybe you should just start presenting yourself as, like,
Ace?
I was going to say as the administrator of the Milwaukee Mitchell International Airport.
Yeah.
Number 2, if you could rank your ranking episodes, which would you rank as number 1?
Oof. So I had there's so many that I've had a lot of fun with.
Yeah.
The 2 that immediately come to mind are ranking the Pokemon starters.
Yes.
With Oscar Montoya. And ranking the Zelda NPCs.
Yeah, with Omar Najam.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And both of those were not ranking episodes. They were both
choosing the definitive best.
Yeah, best. I think those actually are the episodes that are the most fun, where we do not allow ourselves the luxury of ranking. We only need to come up with the best one. And I think especially for the Zelda NPC one, that's going to be my choice, because I think we did make the right choice.
I think so too.
Great. And then third question, have either of you been to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter?
Yes. Absolutely. 100% yes. I've been to the one in Hollywood and the one in Florida, where they have the 2 lands in each theme park.
Did you either have a wand or have someone who brought a wand?
I didn't have a wand, but I was with people who did buy wands.
Yeah. That's such a cool thing. Like, I would never buy a wand, just because, I don't know, for whatever reason, that's one step too far for me. But I love that they, like, activate things, animatronics.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Very, very cool. Also, I like that it's a wet park. That you can drink anywhere at that park. Like, you get some Harry Potter beer and walk around. My God, that's a great time. And Jason's final question. I think you guys mentioned that you met studying improv. Do either of you currently perform anywhere, or are podcasts your medium of choice?
Podcasts are now my medium of choice. I haven't performed for a while.
Yeah, it's been a couple months for me too. But every now and then something does pop up, and so I'll get on stage and perform. But yeah, for the most part, podcasting kind of fills that goal, and you're going to have a bigger audience there than the 20 people that are showing up to the improv show anyway. So, yeah. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. Here's a question from Isaac. Had some questions for the Super Mega Coolness show on May 9th. I think that was the date. All right. It's weird. I'm weird, and drinking liquids while playing video games usually makes my gaming memories. Now, my choice of drink is typically cheer wine. I've heard it's harder to access outside of the state of North Carolina. Maybe you've never even heard of cheer wine. I hope you have. If not, I will ship you a case. Killing Bokoblins, Breath of the Wild, and popping squid in Splatoon is just so much better with drinks. But maybe I'm weird.
So cheer wine. First of all, yes, I have had cheer wine. Have you had cheer wine before?
Yeah, I have also had cheer wine.
It is. You're right. It is not readily available everywhere. I think the only place I've ever picked it up is at the Oaks. This like tiny fancy like grocery kind of place. Which is right by one of the UCB theaters, which is why we were there so much. So yeah, no, I've definitely had some cheer wine.
Yeah, I think they also have it at there, and I am blanking on the name right now, but there's a store in Eagle Rock that is just specialty sodas.
Perfect.
It's like an enormous like
God,
warehouse
LA's
that's
so
just,
cool.
Has just like random sodas from around the country and around the world. So I have had cheer wine before.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Yes, it's
It's like
tasty.
a black cherry type soda.
Yeah, and like it is sweet, but it doesn't hit me in that same like I'm not a big soda drinker these days. But like this doesn't feel like too cloyingly sweet. It is more Coke than Pepsi, say.
But Isaac, I'm also like a beverage person just in life. I'm have more than once gone into a restaurant and ordered like a water, a hot tea, and then like a root beer or something. I like having my choice of beverages.
Yeah, me too. I'm also a little bit of like a compulsive drinker, and I know what that sounds like. It's only partially true. If there is a drink in front of me, I will drink it down. I can't ignore a glass of water. I can't ignore a can of soda. I can't ignore a beer. I just gotta drink it.
A doctor who's listening to this, tell us if that just means
Tell
we're
me I'm healthy.
dehydrated.
Tell me I'm healthy. But I don't know if I associate playing games with any specific drink. I associate the Halo games with beer.
I thought you were going to say gamer fuel.
Ooh, gamer fuel, yeah. No, that's all silly. If I'm going to play a game and drink a lot of something, it is going to be alcohol.
Well, and I'm a kind of like a neat freak. And so I generally don't eat or drink while I'm gaming because I try as hard as possible not to like get dirt on my controllers.
I'll tell you a drinking while gaming story from just this last week. I had a little bit of time by myself, and I was like, I'm going to play Astrobot in VR on PlayStation VR. But I was also thirsty, so I got a can of LaCroix fizzy water. And had like the headset on and was like, all right, I want to take a drink of this drink. And so like put my hand out on the table. I can't see anything because I'm wearing this headset, and just sort of like pat it around for a little bit till I eventually found it, and then realized it was too hard for me to like hold it up to my face.
You gotta have a
visor.
straw.
You gotta, yeah. So I went thirsty for a little bit. All right. Is that were there more Isaac questions?
Nope,
or is that
was it.
Okay. Next, we've got a question from Josh. Josh says, "Hey guys, how did you meet and become friends, and what gave you the idea to start the podcast?"
We met in a improv class in LA. I had moved to LA to do improv, basically. Like that was my goal. That was something I wanted to try. And Patrick and I were in the same like level 3 class at UCB, and we became
friends. We started we were in a couple improv groups together, coming out of that class. One that was basically like half of that class just like deciding to stay together. One that was just the two of us and another gentleman, Chuck Ma. And we just did like the nerdiest 3-person improv you could ever see anywhere. I mean, we did a whole set that we were just like the Bat family in the Bat Cave. Do you remember this one? Like 11:30 on a Tuesday night somewhere.
But we also found out that we lived a block away from each other.
Yes, which in LA is no small thing. So we became friends from that pretty quickly. But then, like before we started doing the podcast, we had kind of just like fallen out of touch with each other. And I don't remember.
Well, the few
Why?
times like when we weren't like seeing each other very regularly, the few
Mhm.
times we would connect was when there was like a Nintendo Direct or something.
Yeah.
And so we would text each other about what had happened, and then we would usually just like fall out of contact again.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think I don't remember how it happened, but you, me, Sarah, we all went out to dinner, right? The four of us went out to dinner, and it was just like nice to spend time with you again. And it was like, why don't we do this? So because this is LA and this is how this town works is if you're not getting together with someone to work on something, you don't see them. And so yeah, I think that was kind of our impetus for like, we should be doing a podcast together. And what's the one thing that always drives us together? It's Nintendo.
Yeah, and so for no other reason, I've really enjoyed doing the show because it's a chance to be able to hang out with Patrick at least once a week.
Yeah, and an excuse for us to play games together too, which it's so dumb that we can't just be like, yes, we like doing this, let's just do it. But making it an assignment helps.
Totally. Dustin asks, what are your top tier games of all time? Don't want to put you on the spot to rank them, but curious, what are your individual favorites across the board?
Oh.
I mean, for me, for sure, Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah.
Super Mario World, A Link to the Past, Breath of the Wild is one of my new ones. Like, that's a forever game for me. Maniac Mansion, because I have so many good memories of just having absolutely no idea what I was supposed to be doing with the NES version that we had rented.
Yep. My list is pretty similar, or like at least to begin with. Mario 3 and Super Mario World. Breath of the Wild, I would say, is also on mine. I guess I would add, just for myself, Warcraft 2. I loved Warcraft 2. I remember that sort of like changing my like the way I thought about games, and also I cannot tell you the number of hours I put into that game. And also Batman Arkham Asylum. That was the game that drove me to finally buy a PlayStation 3. And I love it. I love Batman. It's and that is so. To whoever's question it was about our favorite
Dustin.
No. The
sorry.
Previous question about our favorite superhero series. Arkham Asylum takes so many cues from the Batman animated series that I was just in love with it from the beginning. So I would say those games, and then obviously Tetris. Any way, shape, or form, I will take Tetris however you can give it to me. On the Game Boy 99 with Puyo, whatever.
I'm also going to say like Resident Evil 4.
Oh, yeah.
Castlevania 4 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny, the original Destiny, because that game came out in like such a very specific time in my life that I have so many like good memories tied up with playing through that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like the list is very long.
Yeah. I guess I want to throw out one more that might be a little bit of a dark horse, and it is Mario Kart Wii. Because I got Mario Kart Wii when I was living in Chicago with two roommates who were also like my best friends. And our friends were Sarah, my girlfriend, and her two roommates, and they would come over all the time, and the six of us would play Mario Kart together, and for just hours and hours and hours on end. And I remember everyone going through hating the motion control steering on it, but like committing to it for some reason. We all committed and doubled down on it, and we all got super good at playing that game with the motion controls. And it just felt, I don't know, like everyone knew all those tracks backwards and forward, and it was just such like a perfect time.
Dustin also asks, what are your biggest hopes for E3 this year? Sorry if this is stepping on a future podcast. Actually, I'm not sorry at all, and I hope it is, because I would love to hear a full show on this.
Okay, so then should we hold off on answering this?
Well, we can give a little tease. We can give a little but so Dustin, I was actually thinking about this last night, and I don't really know what to expect from Nintendo at E3 this year. I really have no clue. It feels like it's poised to be a big show, but
also, is it?
Yeah, like it could also not be with I mean, we know a lot of what we are going to see, I think, has already been revealed. You know, they have a big lineup with Pokemon.
Mhm.
We know that Animal Crossing is coming, but we haven't really seen anything about that. There are a lot of rumors of new hardware that they've said isn't like going to be revealed at E3, but maybe like around the show
Yeah.
it'll get revealed. So yeah,
And
I
we
don't
also
really
know that there's like a Luigi's Mansion game too. We know there is not going to be a Metroid Prime 4 because that's going to be so far down the road at this point. But yeah, I don't think that this year will be like the last 3 years, and that I don't think Nintendo's booth is going to be one big thing, because I don't know that they have the one big thing this year. I think it's a lot of pretty big things, and I understand Pokemon, but like Nintendo tends not to lead with Pokemon in like their internal marketing. I don't really know why that is. It might just be that like Pokemon doesn't need it. But like I think this year is going to be a little different. You know, last year was all Smash, the year before was all Odyssey, and then all Breath of the Wild before that. And I think this year is gonna be more of like, here are all these amazing offerings we have through the end of the year, or they could surprise us with something, and that would be a surprise.
Totally, absolutely. Do you think we will see a Mega Man 12 come out anytime soon with the quality of life improvements they put in 11?
This is another thing that I was thinking about recently. I don't know what Capcom is doing or working on right now. Mega Man 11 was something that we had heard about for so long, and then now it's out. And Resident Evil 2 was something that we had heard about for so long, and now it's out. And I just even like the Street Fighter collections or the Capcom like arcade brawlers, like I feel like everything they're doing now is kind of like just coming out of nowhere. And like we don't know what's next for Mega Man, we don't know what's next for Street Fighter, we don't know what's next for like any of the big Capcom franchises. So I mean, when are we going to see a Mega Man 12? I don't know.
Yeah, I especially don't know because I think the game was well enough received, but it didn't really feel like it made any cultural impact at all.
Yeah,
like it was just
certainly
kind of
not the
out
way
and
that
then like
9
disappeared.
did. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how, like I said, I don't know how it sold. So maybe it was well enough to have them interested in 12 immediately, but it kind of seems like it wouldn't be a surprise to me if we see Mega Man fly under the radar again for a little bit.
Yeah.
What is the weather like in LA today?
Sunny.
It's beautiful. It's like 70 degrees.
Mhm.
It's the perfect LA day. How does it feel to know that you wield so much power that I have never even looked up a YouTube review of Sonic Forces based on your collective disdain for the game? Please use this power wisely.
No. I refuse.
Dustin, if you know anything about us, it's that any modicum of power we have, we wield
wildly irresponsibly. I had a friend of mine text me telling me that he read the word box boy somewhere, and his internal monologue pronounced it box boy, like we usually do. So I mean, obviously we are wielding this power. We know we wield this power. We wield it irresponsibly.
Nefariously.
Some might say nefariously. That's correct. Next, we've got an email from Brad. Brad says, "Hey guys, love the show. A few questions below. Feel free to pick and choose." No, we read them all. Number 1, the phone rings. It's Doug Bowser. For reasons unknown, he's granting you 3 Nintendo-related wishes. Anything is on the table. Hardware, software, online, etc. What are your 3 wishes? Now, Brad seems to think that we're going to use these wishes altruistically. I don't know that I'm going to. I may wish for things for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would I like a Virtual Boy and its entire library for my own personal collection? Yes. I'll take it. That's my first wish.
My first wish, I think I'm all about immediate satisfaction. I'm like the rat in one of those science experiments, just trying to like
Totally,
get that dopamine hit as much as possible. I just want SNES games on the Switch in any form possible.
Please just bring them in any form possible. Although, no, let's put them out on the SNES Switch Online.
Yeah.
Also, let's just overhaul that whole thing so I can turn off the heads up display that always shows me what buttons are what. Let me remove it.
And as just like a this would be a long run-on wish.
Yes.
That it would include lots of parts. It'd
That's
be like,
right.
hey, let's just put like the entire virtual console library on that system, so we
Right.
don't have to start from scratch.
But also, let's cut these prices down to like a third of what
Yeah, I
we're
mean, just
asking
put it
for.
all in the library.
Yeah, so we can all just play all of them. Was that 3?
No. That for me, that was all just one
Okay,
wish.
all right. So now I have to. So far, I've wished for the Virtual Boy and its entire library. Second wish. Geez, I don't know. I guess I'll do your second wish. Or your first wish is my second wish because that's a good one.
Thank you. Wish so good it's worth 2 wishes.
Well, I assume that these are 2 parallel universes.
Yeah, no,
one
absolutely.
where you get the phone call, one where I get the
right.
phone call.
Yeah, only one of us would get the phone call, I think.
Tell you what, if we can come up with one more wish between the 2 of us, I'd be happy.
I would really like to. You know what? I would like to learn about canceled games or games that never
great.
made it, that we just never heard about.
Mm-hmm.
And selfishly, it'd be fine if he was just like, hey, come to Retro Studios or whatever, and I'm just going to show you around, and we're going to talk about all the games that they've been working on that didn't make it, or never went into full development or anything like that. That's something that I would be super interested in.
Hardware too. Would love to know more about all of the things that Nintendo has experimented with and not actually put out there, because I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, totally.
Also a new Wario Land game. Number 2, starting with your first console, which systems have you owned over the years, Nintendo and non-Nintendo? Which Nintendo consoles did you skip and why?
Okay, so I can probably just list them all. The NES,
Mm-hmm.
the Game Boy, SNES, N64, GameCube, PlayStation 3, Nintendo DS, and 5 iterations of that. Did I say Game Boy Advance? I don't think I did.
I don't think you did.
PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PlayStation 4.
Did you not own a Wii?
Oh, a Wii, 3DS.
I'm sorry for whatever tone my voice was in when I
Did you not own
Did
a
you not
Wii?
own a Wii?
Are you not entertained? The only, and I think so, the only non-Nintendo consoles I've owned are personally owned are a PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 and a PlayStation 4. And the Nintendo hardware that I have not owned is a Virtual Boy and Wii U. I did not pick up a Wii U. It was a time in my life when the Wii U came out and I just wasn't playing very many video games. And the video games I were playing were on my PlayStation 4. And the Wii U, me, like a lot of people, they're just, it was never enough for me to want to buy into the ecosystem.
Yeah, they never totally made the case for that system. Okay, so we had an NES when I was growing up, then got a Super Nintendo, and then this is where I start to be more engaged with it, where they stop being consoles for the family, and I start leading the charge on it. So I know that I got Nintendo 64 the day it came out because I remember the guy at Target opening up the box and being like, "All right, we've got the systems and Pilot Wings." And I was like, "What about Mario?" And he's like, "We've got Pilot Wings." And I was like, "What about that box over there?" And then he opened another box and Mario was in there. I was this close to leaving the store with Pilot Wings.
You're a hero.
I am. I was a hero to everyone. This generation, I also got a PlayStation because I badly had to play Final Fantasy VII. And then Nintendo 64. I got a GameCube, but I didn't play it much right away. And in fact, most GameCubing that I ended up doing, I did on my Wii later in life. Had a PlayStation 2.
You had a Dreamcast.
Yep, still have it. Still have my Dreamcast. Let's see, and then I got a Wii, and then a PlayStation 3 much later. Oh, somewhere in there I did get a Virtual Boy, had a Game Boy. Got the smaller, I guess they weren't the color yet, but just the Game Boy Pockets.
Mm-hmm.
When Pokemon came out. And then I have a PlayStation 3 and Wii U and Switch. So I of Nintendo platforms, when I had a Game Boy Advance and both a DS and a 3DS. So I have not skipped a single piece of major Nintendo hardware. I've got them all. And I I stand by that decision. Question number 3: how many listeners have shared in the Sonic Mania joy now?
Sonic Forces?
The question says Sonic Mania.
Oh, well,
Sorry, Brad. 0. But I don't know, like a dozen. About 12 people have. It might be more, actually. We have like a little sign out sheet on like inside the copy of Sonic Forces that goes around, and I think there were like 12-ish spaces on there, and it's all filled up. So I don't know what people are doing with that sheet of paper now. But more than 10. And then the last question on here: what are some of your hobbies other than gaming?
Let's see. What do I do that's interesting?
Is that what constitutes a hobby? Here's the thing: we're both adults, so I think we're becoming boring people, right? Like, what are our hobbies? I waste time on Twitter.
I mean, like I talked about on when we were talking about other podcasts we listen to. I love theme parks.
Yeah,
I love going to theme parks. I love talking about theme parks. I just really like theme parks. So that is like I guess a hobby for me. Comedy for a long time was a hobby for me, not so much anymore. I mean, I like reading. We both like comic books.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's is work a hobby? My job
is work a hobby? Is when we're both like physically minded, we both run, but we're not always in that mode. But yeah, I would say that's kind of the extent of our hobbies. I like to cook. I'm not great at it, but I enjoy the adventure of trying to make a meal or something.
I like films. I like like the art of filmmaking.
Oh yeah, I mean we're pretentious little dorks.
I mean we suck. Don't get me wrong. We're insufferable.
Speaking of insufferable, Mark, you want to take a little break? And
yeah,
then we'll
let's
come right
do
back
it.
to this. Little break. Needed a little break. We've been going for a while. Question here from Connor. Connor says, "Hi, gents. Here are a couple of questions for the episode. Thanks for doing this pod and investing your time and energy. It's truly something I look forward to twice a week and has been helpful in the video game renaissance that I've been having over the last 2 years. You're great." Thank you, Connor. That's very nice.
Thank you.
What other video game content do you consume? Do you listen to other podcasts? Do you watch YouTube channels, read IGN, Kotaku, etc.? Any strong video game content recommendations?
So we talked a little bit about podcasts earlier.
Yep.
I also I read Kotaku.
Yep.
I think Jason Schreier's work, especially when he's covering like game development.
Yeah,
and kind of like
top notch.
Yeah, and kind of like the abuses that happen in game development is like really important work. And I'm glad that he's doing that. On YouTube, I do follow a bunch of YouTube channels. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I follow Jeremy Parrish's like Game Boy Works and SNES Works and Virtual Boy Works.
That's a great series. I almost hate them because they're so good. I can just watch one after another. He basically just brings up one of those games from Super Nintendo and NES or Game Boy and just like tells you its story in like 15-ish minutes. It's perfect.
There's a man who goes by the moniker Dr. Sparkle, and he has a series called Crontendo where the episodes are like an hour and a half or 2 hours long, and they don't come out with much regularity anymore. I don't even know if he's continuing to pursue it, but it was basically literally chronicling the history of every single NES game that was ever released in Japan. So like NES or Famicom game.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting.
It's very extensive. It's great to do, for me. Just I enjoyed having it on in the background. There's the gaming historian who I really like a lot. I'm trying to think of some other ones.
I like all of the Polygon videos that are Brian David Gilbert like trying to rank something, or there's one where he works out the Zelda timeline by putting all Zelda media into one big multiversal timeline. He's very good and very funny and does a great job of like linking everything together. And every now and then I will allow myself to fall down rabbit holes of Polygon's video content. And basically anything that Brian is in, I'm like, yes, I like this. I also I'll check out Game Explain stuff from time to time, especially when it's. I mean, they're big Nintendo guys, so they are. They're paying attention to all the stuff that I'm paying attention to as well. When that Super Mario Maker 2 trailer dropped, they had like a 40-minute video like showing everything that the trailer revealed, and so I loved that. What else? Oh, on Kotaku, I've talked about. Is it Tim Rogers, who does the? He's just renamed the series to Let's Mosey, Found in Translation, where he has played the English and Japanese versions of Final Fantasy VII and compared the translation. And it's this great like 12-part series that only gets to like the first third of the game, but it's incredible. So that's most of what I. Yeah, and any others, Mark?
I also just really like when the marathons are on. I really like Games Done Quick.
Yeah, yep.
And
Awesome
occasionally I'll
games
just
as well.
fire up Twitch and find like a game, usually like a retro game, and just watch somebody trying to perfect their speed runs.
Yeah, that's fun. And then Connor has a second question. The Switch has had an incredible 2-year run. We have had knockout first-party releases like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Smash, Splatoon, great ports like Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, I guess, for Switch, DK Tropical Freeze, huge third-party games, countless indie darlings, etc. If there was zero Switch content released after today and that its run had ended, it could be argued that the experience would be up there with the best consoles. That said, for you, what does the Switch still need to accomplish to bring it to the next level or ascend even higher? I can think of a handful of things: Metroid Prime 4, a real online experience, UI changes, other games, but I wanted to hear from you.
I would like to see it get like a third part, and I guess in a way like Dragon Quest XI-S is kind of this, but like a big JRPG, just like blown out extravaganza that only Japan knows how to do so well.
Yeah,
You know, like a Kingdom Hearts 3 level.
I mean, isn't
like,
that
I can't.
it has to be third party, like the Xenoblade?
Yeah,
count?
for me, like
Yeah.
I think that's kind of that's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, I mean, having like the big new Square and Capcom games on there, just to make it, I don't know, for whatever reason, having like those two Japanese companies support behind it, and they do, like there are a lot of Square and Capcom games, but they're always the like also rans, the like not the big, AAA whatever experiences. It would be cool to see those on Switch, and I think that's the real thing, that that and the thing's ability to interact with the Wi-Fi in your own house. I think those are the two things that it really needs to
And
become something better.
Yeah, and I also just am looking forward to a 2D Zelda, like kind of old school Zelda that's not the Link's Awakening remake,
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of its own thing.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that this year is certainly a step towards, I had mentioned on maybe last week's show that we're starting to actually see the titles that we normally associate with 3DS, like Fire Emblem, like Animal Crossing, like Pokemon, coming over to the Switch. And I think as soon as like this machinery is in place where we have all of the console and all the handheld developers all working on Switch games, and like once that machine is like up and running and smoothly running, it's going to be more games than we even know what to deal with. It's going to be great. Oh, and then sorry, I'll read another one. These are emails that came in that we don't have printed off yet. So here's an email from Dave. He says, I've been a listener since I got my Nintendo Switch in February of last year, but haven't emailed yet, and I figured a special event like the 250-ish episode spectacular is the perfect time. I was wondering what Nintendo-related Christmas gift meant the most to you guys. I will never forget the Christmas morning that I ran out of my room at 6 a.m. to find Super Mario Kart and Mario Paint in my stockings. That's great. I don't think I've ever felt as much pure joy aside from the birth of my daughter decades later. Anyways, love the show and hope it continues for another 250-ish episodes. David.
Growing up, we never really got Nintendo things or like video game things for Christmas. My parents weren't against video games, but they didn't want to buy it when it first came out and it was like super expensive. We always got it later when it was cheaper. But the one thing that I did get for Christmas, and it was especially special because it was mine, I didn't share it with siblings or anything, was a Game Boy. I remember getting that for Christmas. It came with Tetris, and then I also got Quarth.
Quarth,
It's like a
the greatest city that ever was, there ever will be.
it's like don't even really know how to explain it, because I'm not even sure I ever understood how it worked. But I think it's kind of like the Tetris a little bit. Like the blocks are falling, but they're falling in like a chunk, and then you have this little like spaceship at the bottom that's like shooting things.
Cool.
I don't know. I was never. I think I would occasionally put it in because I didn't get a lot of games for my Game Boy, so I would occasionally put it in when I was bored or wanted something else to try. And I never figured out exactly what it is. That's one like the Rescue of Princess Blobette, where I should go on YouTube and find out how that game is supposed to be played.
Right, so you can go back and fix your memories. So I think my best like Christmas memory with a Nintendo thing actually started from a place of disappointment for me. I had asked for Final Fantasy 2 for the Super Nintendo, Japanese 4, right? And then my grandmother got me Final Fantasy 3, which must have been new that year. You know, when you're a kid, you don't really know when things come out or, you know, whatever. So it was Final Fantasy 3. And I remember being like, oh, okay, this isn't the game that I want. Like, thank you, of course. And I'll be excited to play it. But, like, I had that, like, moment of, like, this isn't the game that I was hoping so much that I was going to get. And then putting it in, you know, later that day and falling in love with it. And Final Fantasy 3 is my Final Fantasy. Like, it is my favorite game in that series, and I think one of the greatest games of all time. And yeah, so that well, it wasn't like, it didn't have that like pop of like Christmas morning, this is the best thing ever, but it was a Christmas memory and turned into the best thing ever, just gradually.
Here's a question from Steven. Says, I'm here to help you out with your question spectacular. That sounded weird when I typed it, but I'm keeping it. No, Steven, that was exactly right. We appreciate your help. There's a couple of questions here. One, what was your first experience with gaming or first memorable experience?
So I remember going to a babysitter's house where they had an NES, and either had it hooked up to a TV or I knew they had it. And I knew that you could play Super Mario Brothers on it. And I remember the babysitter telling me that the TV they had was old, and so like the TV needed to warm up, and that like if we didn't have time now to like warm up the TV, and I know that she was just like didn't want me to play it for whatever reason. So I think that's like the earliest experience I can remember.
Yeah, my first experience with video games, as far as I can remember, like full stop, was when my parents brought home a Nintendo Entertainment System power set.
Yes.
So it came with an NES, the Zapper gun, 2 controllers, the power pad,
yes,
and one cartridge that had Super Mario Brothers, World Class Track and Field, and Duck Hunt.
Yeah, great cart.
Came out in like, I looked it up, it came out in 1988, so it was a couple of years after the NES had already been out.
This is the same, that we had the same power pack. Yeah.
And so yeah, that was my first experience with video games, full stop. A really memorable experience for me was a few years later when I went to my cousin's house. We lived in different parts of the country, and we were visiting for like Thanksgiving or something, and seeing Super Mario World for the first time. And like the first time, like, I didn't know the Super Nintendo was coming out. I didn't know about the Super Nintendo. I knew nothing. And so to have this like new Nintendo system that existed that looked so amazing, and Mario had a cape and could fly, it like blew my mind.
Man, what just a way of experiencing the world that we will never get to again, of just not even knowing that a new piece of Nintendo hardware was even possible, and then just seeing it at someone's house and being able to play it the same minute that you're hearing that it exists. God!
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible. Another question from Steven. If you had to pick a franchise to get a new game on the Switch, what would you push for?
Star Tropics, obviously.
Yeah, and for me, I would love an old school like 2D side-scrolling Castlevania.
Yeah. Also, that is a great point. A new that would be so cool. Like in the like Castlevania 3 kind of or Super Castlevania style.
Yep.
I would also, it's because I'm knee deep in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff right now, but just a new like Turtles arcade game style brawler with the Ninja Turtles. Just give that to me. God, that sounds so good.
If you feel comfortable with it, tell us about your significant others.
Oh, that's an interesting. Do we feel comfortable with it?
So I try to keep my husband out of it because like he doesn't have a say in this podcast,
Right.
you know. He indulges me doing it. So but in the broadest of terms, I can say he's super handsome,
That's right.
really smart,
Mm-hmm.
really nice. You guys would all love him. And that's another reason why I keep him off this podcast is because you would want him to replace me on it.
Oh, yes. And similarly about Sarah, if she were in here, you'd say, forget you dorks. Let's just have Sarah do this thing on her own. She's great. She's a ton of fun. Plays games, but is not insufferable about them like we are. But yeah, I mean, there is just a little part of like, we choose to do this. We choose to put our personalities out there in a very like naked kind of way. And so, I think we talk about them from time to time, and I think you can put together a pretty solid picture of who they are from the previous 249 episodes.
Here's another question from Steven. Design a new Pokemon on the fly for Pokemon Sword and Shield. What name, type, and characteristics?
This is great. So
I think, okay, here's one, because I'm just scanning around the room, looking at things that I don't think are currently Pokemon, and one that's a, like, coffee maker.
Sure. There we go. It is is Dark a type of Pokemon?
I think so.
And it has all kinds of moves to speed up its speed.
Mm-hmm. It can expel grounds, right?
Coffee grounds.
Yeah.
There you go. And it's called
something with Java in it.
Sure. It is, but let's also combine it with something like let's make it a little bit of a dinosaur too. So it's got like Stegosaurus plates.
Sure, it's Javasaur.
Javasaur. There we go. We did it. That was a good one, Mark.
And what does it? I'm putting our own structure. I'm adding this to something we have to figure out. Is how does it fit into the Pokemon Sword and Shield theme of like England?
Well, so here's the thing: is that this is only available in the Sword version. In the Shield version, it's some sort of tea Pokemon.
That's right. That's right. It's a tea kettle.
Yes, that's
it's
right.
It's a fairy type.
Right. It also looks kind of like a dinosaur, so it's like Kettledon or something.
Kettledon. Yes, that's perfect. If you had to live somewhere else in the U.S. or in the world, where would you live?
I don't know at this point.
Yeah.
My family is scattered enough that I don't have like a place that I would go back to or like a place that would feel like home now that's not L.A. But I did live in Chicago for a couple of years, and I like that city when it's not actively trying to kill you, which is admittedly like 6 months out of the year because it's so cold. But I don't know. I could see myself winding up back in Chicago someday.
Yeah, there's so I was recently in China, and there was a city that's outside of Shanghai called Suzhou.
Mm-hmm.
And man, like I love that city.
Oh yeah,
I would 100% move there. Funny thing about Suzhou is when we were traveling and talking about Suzhou, I would just like in my head have. Are you familiar with The Emperor's New Groove?
Yes.
So there's not a lot of songs in it, but there's one that's like sung by Tom Jones at the beginning and at the end where they're kind of like introducing you to the character. And
to
Cusco. Exactly. That part right there. And when we were traveling, I was always like, in my head, I'm like, why do I have this song in my head? And it's because Suzhou sounds very similar to Cusco.
Yeah.
And so I would be like,
Suzhou!
just like subconsciously. I'm super fun to be around. Clearly.
Right, and of course, once Galaxy's Edge opens up, of course, we'll live on Batu.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would live in the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. The real, like, the fake one from the movie or the fake one in the theme parks.
Perfect.
Like, I would 100% live there. Of course. Thank you, Steven.
We've got a question here from Dustin, and he says, here are a few more. So have we already answered questions from Dustin?
Oh, yeah, I think we did.
All right.
Or maybe we will in the future.
All right, well, great. Here are some more. He thought of some more questions. With the 3DS looking like it's done getting new first-party games, are there any games that you are disappointed did not make it onto the system? onto the 3DS?
Not that I can think of offhand. I feel like the 3DS had a really full life.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like it was ready to pass on.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I don't think there really is anything else. It never got its own Wario Land, which I like those games. It would be nice to see another something like that. But also just like if we are able to port GameCube games to 3DS, like yeah, let's get like Mario Sunshine on there and other stuff like that. But yeah, otherwise, I think that game had a rich, full life. Do you think we will get another Zelda for Switch in the Breath of the Wild engine, similar to Majora's Mask on 64?
Yes, and I think it's coming next year.
Really?
Yeah.
You think it'll be that quick?
I do, because I think that they were mostly done with the development of Breath of the Wild, like before it was released in March, and then I think the team just like basically turned to working on that because I don't think Link's Awakening is being done internally.
Oh, okay.
That's purely speculation on my part, and so yes, I'll be surprised if the Switch doesn't see another another game in the Breath of the Wild style.
Yeah. And I think that's something we don't really talk about enough, or like no one really does, that Breath of the Wild must have been done for a while. And the reason that it was held off until March was because they wanted to put it out on Switch. And that's as early as they could get the Switch out. Next question. Is it just me? Or are you dying for Nintendo to scrap the Mario and Luigi series and make a prequel to Mario RPG? Sorry, sequel to Mario RPG.
I've never really liked I've never really played the Mario and Luigi series, so I have no feelings about it. So if they did that, yeah, I'm all for it.
I don't know that you need to scrap it in order to make a sequel to the Mario RPG. First of all, we've never seen a sequel to Super Mario RPG in like 20 years, so there's such a thing does not yet exist. But I mean, the Mario and Luigi series coexist with the Paper Mario series, so I mean, I think they could put out a Mario RPG 2 next year and then a Mario and Luigi game the year after, and no one would be like, hey, what? More questions from Dustin. What other series would you like to see Nintendo make a new game for that turns the typical gameplay on its head? Maybe a Zelda-themed RPG? Splatoon 3D platformer? Something like that.
I really want Star Fox Grand Prix to be real.
Star Fox Grand Prix would be a wonderful thing. Oh my god. I would also really like take any of the Fire Emblem stories and just like turn it into a Zelda game. Like let me control those characters on like a real map and not a turn-based kind of game. I think that would be cool. Do you think we will get Madden 20 on the Switch this year?
No, I don't.
Yeah, me neither. What would be the point? Like if so few people would buy it, it doesn't make sense to me.
I think part of the reason that FIFA shows up is because it's such a worldwide franchise.
Yeah, totally. And even that, like we saw one of them. Are we going to see?
We saw two.
We saw two.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not really paying attention to that. Dustin says, now a chance to get a little negative. Haha. What are some games that other people like that you just can't get into? I was ragging on like games as service style games before, your Destinies, your Anthems, your Division. I don't really care about any of that stuff. The idea of like having to log on every night to like support my clan or whatever, like that sounds exhausting to me.
And this may be because I didn't play it in the most optimal way. I didn't play it on PC, but I have a really hard time with Half-Life 2. I played it on the orange box, and I thought it was just okay.
Did you play it like at the time or like many years later?
I played it when the orange box first came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just not for me.
Not all games work for everyone. And then Dustin's last question: how great does it feel to know that? How great does it feel to know you are not falling behind on any of your gaming resolutions this year? That $1 million bet always seems stressful.
Dustin, is that because we didn't make any resolutions this year?
Yeah, that's right. Basically,
it feels great.
It feels great. He's just burning us on making none of them last year. Here's the thing. I always have faith that when we make $1 million bet, somehow it's going to work out.
How do you mean?
Somehow it's going to work out.
Oh, okay.
So like the question is, do I stress out about it? No, because I have faith. It's going to work out.
Yeah, somehow like I'll die before we like I don't know, but I agree. I 100% agree. I have faith in the system.
Me too. System's good.
So, kind of a follow-up to one of Dustin's question. Mitchell writes in saying, Mitchell, great name. Strong name.
Mm-hmm.
What would you want out of a Nintendo Switch Super Mario RPG? Obviously, we can't get Bowser's inside story since there is a lack of the second screen and the limits overall length, level depth, verticality. Which other DS games had maximized in the Mario RPG genre?
Oh, okay. So the question is sort of like a two-part, like if we were to bring an existing one over, and then like what else would we want from a Mario RPG?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I don't think I need to see any of those games brought over to the Switch. I think just make a new one and like do something different and crazy with it.
Yeah, I would like to see a continuation of the Paper Mario series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that counts as adjacent to this question.
I think it does.
But yeah, I would like to see a continuation of Paper Mario. I love Thousand Year Door. I love the first Paper Mario game. I think Super Paper Mario is a little misunderstood. I think that's maybe an underrated game, going back to one of our earliest questions.
Yep.
I didn't play the Sticker Star or Color Splash, but
yeah.
you like Color Splash.
I like Color Splash, okay. I mean, I played maybe like 10 or 12 hours of it and then kind of gave up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, what I want, I think, kind of boring stuff from a new Super Mario RPG. I want it to be like a turn-based battle system, and I just want like funny, interesting characters.
Yeah, and I think that's something that all of the Mario RPGs that people hold dear to their hearts, like that's kind of the one series that Nintendo allows the Mario characters to let loose.
Mm-hmm.
And like the peripheral characters are like really silly and it's funny. And the dialogue is really clever, and the music is almost universally amazing. So those are like the most important things to me when talking about a Mario RPG.
Yeah, I will agree with that 100%. Next email comes from Danko. He writes, "Hey there, fellows. I have a question that I would like to answer on your 250th-ish episode. I have noticed that you do not have any ads on your podcast, and I have never heard any mention about Patreon or any such services. So my question is, do you make any money on the podcast? If you don't, would you like to make money on the podcast, or is this more of a side project?"
So there was early in its life a brief time where we experimented with ads.
Yes. That we were Mac Weldon, right?
Yeah.
I still have those underwear that they they sent us.
Got a sweet hoodie out of it.
Mm-hmm. And I've got a nice pair of shorts that I like. But we have not. I don't think that that's how we view this show, as a way for us to make money. But the question, would you like to make money on the podcast? Yeah, I guess I would. But it's not something that we've ever really made a priority.
Yeah, it's not a driving factor. It's definitely not why we do this.
Yeah, I mean, we primarily do this because we like talking about Nintendo and we like spending time with each other, which the experience you have with the show is similar to the experience that we have with the show. If our listenership were to explode in such a way that like making money from ads would be a little bit more like effortless on our part, or that there would be like a return worth us actually like spending the time to set that up and sell the ads and actually do them, then it might happen. But as of right now, that's just not. It's not what we see the show as.
Yeah, we're just kind of happy hanging out.
Yep.
Question from Jack. Says, obviously, Nintendo has provided us with many amazing and great memories, but there have been many memories or many moments that have left a sour taste in our mouths, like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild getting delayed many times, much of the Wii U era, etc. So what is your least favorite Nintendo-related memory? Sometimes it can be fun to reflect on the downer times, especially when things are going so well right now in the Wii era. Thanks so much and keep up the fabulous work.
People keep trying to drag us into being negative, Mark.
I mean, it is something that we try we've never done like a ranking episode of like our least favorite games or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because again, we are just doing this for fun. We do this because we like talking about Nintendo and hanging out with each other. And so like the corollary to that is we don't want to talk about stuff that bums us out, really.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's, Mark and I both used to write about comics on the site Retcon Punch, and like, it is just more fun to write about a comic book when you liked it than when you hated it. And, there are exceptions, and sometimes it's fun to dunk on something that's stupid, but like, I don't know, that's such a weird energy, and like, I don't want to put more of that out there into the world. So are we dodging this question?
No, well, I'm honestly, I'm trying to think of something that Nintendo has done that like really bummed me out. And there are times where I'm trying to think of like something I was disappointed in. Like, I am disappointed in the Switch's online service.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that there aren't like SNES games on there. I'm disappointed that the library is limited and is only updated like once a month with a handful of games. Like, all those things are I guess you could say are like disappointing to me. But but they don't.
They're not surprising, really,
and they
right?
don't negatively affect my overall
Sure.
experience. Yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult question. I don't really view Nintendo through that lens because Nintendo is just something that I enjoy kind of on my own terms. And if they do something that I don't like, it's okay to me because I just don't engage with that.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I mean, it is perhaps important to remember that like Nintendo isn't all the games we play, and gaming isn't all the things we do. So like,
Even though we struggle to think of any other thing, anything else.
I sleep, I eat.
Is breathing a hobby?
But yeah, I mean, I sort of agree. Like, yeah, you'll see, Wii Music at E3, and you're like, okay, that's an embarrassing press conference thing. But like, everyone has an embarrassing press conference thing at some point, and you're just like, okay, well then I just won't play that. And then 10 years later, you will play it with your friend Mark for an afternoon, and you'll have fun.
And you'll realize, oh wow, we like this thing got really dogged on, but there was a lot to experience there. I guess the other thing is like game. I try to appreciate that, like anything, games are really difficult.
Totally.
Like having a large company like a video game company is hard, and they're going to make mistakes, and it's like it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's
Yeah.
fine when something disappoints me.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's also kind of I feel like this is a thing I've been reiterating now a lot, but that Nintendo is less a technology company than it is a toy company. And so when it doesn't keep pace with the kinds of services and like, really powerful hardware that Sony and Microsoft are putting out there, that's not a thing that bothers me. Do I wish it were different? Maybe. I don't even know that I do. Like, I like the weird little creature that Nintendo is, and so I don't know that I need it to change.
But I will tell you my least favorite Nintendo related memory.
Yeah, what's that?
And that was, and I think I've told this story before, but growing up when I was younger, like if I really wanted to see a movie that my parents had zero interest in seeing, what I had to do was earn money by doing chores and then buy tickets for like me and my dad to go. And then we could go see that movie. And I wanted so bad to see the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, that's
when
tough.
it came out into theaters. Like, I want to see it so bad. My dad was like, absolutely not. So I spent, like in my mind, it probably wasn't that long, but to my memory, it's like weeks. Raking the leaves, pulling weeds, like all that kind of stuff to try to earn just like nickels at a time, to earn like the $10 it would take at that time for two people to go see movies. And I had finally earned the money, and because it bombed so hard, it was like out of theaters immediately.
Oh no!
So I was
you
never
didn't
able
even get
to
to
see
go.
it. I didn't even get to go.
I thought the memory was going to be that you went and hated it.
No, I
right.
think I was too young to hate a movie.
Yeah, fair enough,
It
fair
was
enough.
just like anything would have been great.
All right, I got a question here from James. Hey guys, whether it is in the 250th episode or elsewhere, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Endgame. Maybe if you place it at the end of the episode to avoid spoilers.
Oh, okay.
That's a good idea. We'll come back to that.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. Here's a question from Miles. Do you think Paper Mario has a chance on the Switch? Make a proposal for a new Paper Mario game.
People are into the Mario RPGs today.
Yes, I 100% think that a Paper Mario game has a chance on Switch. They're usually developed by Intelligent Systems, who also develop the Fire Emblem games.
Right.
So now that Three Houses is out, or it will be out this summer, I think that it makes sense that their next project will probably be a Paper Mario game of some kind.
And that could be further along than we know. Like, I think they have they must have a couple different teams going at any given time, because it seems like they put out a lot of games.
And the Switch is just kind of a system. Maybe it's because Breath of the Wild celebrates all of Nintendo or Zelda history, and same with Odyssey celebrates all of Mario history. Like, the Switch kind of feels like a system where they're just Nintendo is giving us what we want in a way that they haven't previously.
Sure.
So I think a new Paper Mario game makes a lot of sense.
So if we're to pitch one, I'm gonna say a Paper Mario game that retells the story of Super Mario Brothers USA, so Super Mario Brothers 2, with all those same bosses and stuff in it, but it's just in the paper.
I'd love that.
form.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be super fun, and really just like blow out the world with like weird, trippy dream world stuff. It'd be great.
Second question: if you could remake 5 of these games, which one would you remake? Each of you must pick 5.
Oh,
So
Jesus!
here's the list: Chibi Robo,
Okay.
Trauma Center, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, Wonderful 101, Jump Ultimate Stars, Smash Melee, Star Tropics 2, Earthbound, Captain Toad, and Luigi's Mansion: Dark Moon.
So these are presumably remakes for the Switch.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay. So Earthbound is on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would love a playable version of Earthbound. I'm not about to like spew Earthbound hate, but I don't think that game is as easy or as inviting to play as people think it is. Even just a remake that adds some of the like conveniences of modern releases of old Final Fantasy games would be nice. So I'll take that one. Star Tropics 2, obviously, because Star Tropics. We don't need to reiterate why I like Star Tropics. Luigi's Mansion: Dark of the Moon, partially because I feel like having a Luigi's Mansion game in a handheld system just feels weird to me. I want it to be like up on a screen and pretty, and I want the mansion to be imposing, right? And then I must pick 5.
Yes.
Can I see the list again?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Captain Toad. Captain Toad is on Switch, right?
Yeah, basically in a remake
Okay, so
form.
I'll count that one because I don't want to come up with another one.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll go with Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Just because, we were saying that you could bring all these Mario RPGs over to Switch and not even really have to tinker with them all that much.
Yeah, I think a Thousand Year Door remake, like a remaster for Switch, would be gangbusters. I would love that. So I'm going to count that as one of my ones.
Okay.
Trauma Center. These games are crazy. They're absolutely bonkers. It's kind of like Puyo Puyo Tetris, where you're like, oh, it's a Tetris game with Puyo Puyo. Like, how crazy could the story be? It's a game where you are a surgeon in a hospital, right? Like, that's pretty much all the story you need, right? How crazy can these games get? So crazy. I would love to see some sort of remake of that. I'm going to say Star Tropics 2, of course. Earthbound, I completely agree that game is obtuse and like a little bit difficult to get into, and I think a modern remake with some quality of life upgrades would be great. And then for the final one, I'm going to say Chibi Robo, because I've never played any of those games, and so yeah, bring them to Switch.
Yeah, why not? All right, that's all of our questions, with the exception. Oh no, you've got.
I have one more. I have one more.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so this is from Lizzie. She says, "Hello, you two. Here are some questions for your question episode. What's your favorite Animal Crossing villager?"
Ooh, so you've got more experience with Animal Crossing, so
Mhm.
I'll let you.
Does KK Slider count as a villager? Because KK Slider.
This is a great question because they're the character called the villager,
Right.
like the one that's playable in Smash. Is that what the question means, or is it?
I don't think so. I think it means
Okay.
like a character who lives in your
In
like
your town.
So if KK Slider counts all, I don't know if he's a resident.
Yeah, he's like a traveling music man.
I really like Tom Nook's kids. The two,
Timmy and Tommy.
Timmy and Tommy. I think
Mhm.
they're adorable. But yeah,
I like Isabel, man. She's great. Have you seen? There's a couple like drawings that one of the Blizzard concept artists was just drawing characters from Smash in like fashionable outfits. And there's one of Isabel where like she's like wearing this coat and like she just looks so cool and happy. I just like her.
If all of the 8 Animal Crossing villagers got into a no holds bar brawl, who would win?
Jody, the boar.
She'd just be like goring people.
She would just be goring everyone. Yeah.
So I think KK Slider would be scrappy and be able to like smash his guitar over somebody's head.
You think
at
he's
least
seen
once.
some rough stuff on the road?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some, especially when he was coming up, like
Totally.
bad like dive bars, truck stops in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean,
like
KK's,
real Roadhouse type stuff.
He's been stabbed.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and stabbed somebody in self-defense.
Oh yeah, totally.
But absolutely killed at least one person. She asked, "What's the history of this podcast? I haven't been with you guys since the beginning, so how did it start?"
Yeah. So we kind of got around to like the show's inception. I guess the only other like thing that we could talk about from that was we met for lunch one day. Like to hash out the details of this and basically pitched out everything that the show currently is, with the exception of it took us a little while to separate the topic episodes from the news episodes. In fact, we were doing the show for months before our producers at what was then What's a Creative is now Campfire Podcasts said, hey, maybe split up these episodes so that you're not putting out an 1 hour and a half long episode every week, but instead putting out like 2 45-minute episodes a week.
And we were weirdly like really resistant to that initially.
We were resistant to that, yeah. Well, and I mean it does mean that we have to do 2 episodes a week, which can be kind of a lot. And if before we had done a news episode and our topic for that episode had gone for like 15 minutes, then we'd just put out like an hour-long episode and it would be fine. But now, like, I don't know, I would feel weird putting out a just 15-minute episode. Even though sometimes we do put out like a 22 minute, like the Labo VR one recently was pretty short. But yeah, that's. Do you have anything else to add about like the origin of the podcast?
No, I think that's pretty much it. And lastly, who would your dream guest on the show be? I can think of a ton. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to get Reggie Fils-Aimé, the now retired president of Nintendo, on here. I would love to get Bill Trinan. I would love to get Shigeru Miyamoto. I'd love to get just like somebody who was really in the trenches and like the development of a lot of these games. Like I was talking about, like I think a lot of us are just fascinated with canceled games or like what could have been.
Yeah.
And it would be really cool to talk to somebody who like worked on these games, worked on a game that was canceled or never came out. Dylan Cuthbert, now of I think it's Q Games, but previously worked on like Star Fox. Would be another great guest.
Yeah, all great ideas. I would also love to have like anyone that is on any of the other podcasts that we've mentioned so far come on here, because I think that would just be good conversation. And of course, Greg Smith. And I'm not just saying it because I'm afraid of him.
No, me either.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, why would either
it's
of us
not like
be
he
afraid
bullied
of
his way onto the show before.
All right, should we talk about Endgame now?
Yeah, sure.
We'll play a little music transition here, and then after that, if you haven't seen Endgame and you don't want to be spoiled on it, like get out of here by the time the music comes back. Endgame.
I loved it.
I loved it too. We saw it on Friday night, the weekend it came out, at the Vista Theater in Los Angeles, as we have made a tradition now for Marvel movies. Yeah, I thought it was great. There was during the last like 45 minutes or so of the movie, I was literally shaking because I was so excited. The crowd that we saw it with was, popping at everything. So there were, tons of like big cheer moments for us and tons of, we were laughing a lot. I don't know. I thought it was great and just exactly what I needed to like end that era of Marvel movie.
Yeah, I think I the first thing I said to you after it was over was like, I can't believe they pulled it off.
It seems insane, right? Oh God, there's just so much cool stuff in that movie.
Yeah, I felt like it was a really kind of perfect send off for those for like a lot of those characters.
Yeah, and like doesn't worry itself with, and maybe this is just something that I've been missing from Marvel movies in general, but doesn't worry itself with like what could come next, or like, you know, setting up or having like little Easter eggs for, you know, things for us to discover for the future of the blah 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 blah. You know, and like it's all sort of there, like Cap giving Sam the shield, and you know all of that kind of, like Cassie Lang being 5 years older, sort of hinting that like we're gonna get Cassie in the Ant-Man suit, which we get in the comics. You know, like I guess that stuff is all sort of there, but it doesn't feel like that's the point of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The point
Totally.
the point of the movie is to be itself and to be like a capstone on 20 plus movies. So yeah, I think we had a great time with it.
Do you think that they have a Captain Marvel problem in the sense that like Captain Marvel is just so incredibly powerful?
She is insanely powerful, and I am hard pressed to come up with like a villain that you could put up against her that she wouldn't just take down immediately.
Yeah, and for that reason, it's a little bit like she's not in the movie very much. She's not in Endgame very much, and
Right.
that's fine because she like this is paying off all that first set of like original Avengers characters and giving them a send off, and she's
Right.
clearly part of whatever the future of Marvel Studios is.
Right. Which, you know, in the same way that Black Panther's not in this movie a lot and Spider-Man's not in this movie a lot.
And like Doctor Strange isn't in this
Yeah.
movie a lot. But by the same token, it's like she's there at the very beginning and then pieces out for kind of like not really clear reasons, and then comes in at the end when like you need that super powerful character in order to kind of be that Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't go to Deus Ex Machina necessarily, but like she certainly is. Like they remove her from the board, and it's reasons that are like bigger than like just the importance of what the Avengers are up to, you know. Because obviously her whole thing is way bigger than just Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's also, I think I've expressed this on the show before, that like I have a hard time buying into something when we never go to Earth, when like we're just spacebound. It feels like that much more removed from reality. So like if the next adventures of Captain America or Marvel is like her zipping around space, I'm gonna have a harder time like kind of being into that. So yeah, I mean, I am very curious to see what her next movie or movies will be. But yeah, like as a member of the Avengers, I guess she's just like Thor, really, in that regard. You know what I mean? Like, especially in Infinity War, like everyone's having a hard time beating back Thanos' army, and then Thor arrives and just like decimates them.
I guess that's true. Also, it seems like the future of the Marvel universe potentially could be very cosmic because we have the Eternals coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, there's going to be another one of those. Thor is with them as Guardians of the Galaxy is a pun too good to not make a movie about.
I thought they used time travel really smartly
Yep.
in this movie. Like, I thought they used it in a way to surprise you, like when Thanos dies in the first like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
But
awesome.
then is able to still be like the big bad of the movie. It wasn't a cheat when Gamora comes back because it's like, she is dead. Like the Gamora we knew is dead, but there's this other Gamora that can still exist in the Guardians of the Galaxy universe.
And who Peter has to make tolerate him again.
Yeah.
We get to see that journey again. Yeah, no, I think that's all. And you know, give me a time travel story where Steve can go back and live a full life with Peggy Carter. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's just my little heart will just break and be on the floor in pieces, and I'll be totally happy with that.
My soul left my body when he fought himself.
Oh my God, yes.
When he's like, I could do this all day, and he's like, I know.
I love that he's annoyed with his old self. God, it's so good. And I love the way Ant-Man holds together the first, like, or not the first act of the movie, but like that whole 5 years later part before they start actually like tripping through time. It gives the Scott Lang character like meaning and weight in the franchise that he hasn't had to that point.
Yeah, I thought it was just like really smart. Like the stuff that they were able to do is just like it was just really thoughtful use of all of the characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, just from like a filmmaking logistics, that shoot, the fact that it existed, that movie exists and works as well as it works is insane. It's just absolutely incredible.
So after 3 years and 3 movies of Lord of the Rings movies, Peter Jackson gets all the awards imaginable for Return of the King, which isn't even the best Lord of the Rings movie. And that's 3 years and 3 movies. Do you think we will see anything even close to that for the Avengers movies?
No, I don't. But I think that as a like achievement in just like filmmaking stamina,
Yeah.
like again, the fact that they were able to pull it off, I think it's a bigger deal than the Lord of the Ring movies.
Yeah, totally. Although I mean, it's obviously a bigger. There are way more directors and screenwriters and everything. But like this is the 4th MCU movie that the Russos have directed, right?
Yeah.
That's one more movie than Lord of the Rings. So I'm just saying, Peter Jackson, take a seat, buddy. Okay, I think we did it. We talked about Endgame. Let's close out this whole segment here and this whole show. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Thank you all so much for writing in. It has been a pleasure and a darn good time answering all your questions.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone who listens to the show at all. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a second when we put out like a call for questions or for listener input where we're like, maybe no one will answer, and no one listened to the show, and we don't know anything about
We'll
anything.
just cancel ourselves, sink into the floor out of embarrassment.
But that has not happened, so that is great. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, share it on Facebook or Twitter, or wherever you share stuff. It helps us out tremendously. On Twitter, I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. You can remember that because MKE is the airport code for Milwaukee International Airport. And the show is at NinCart Society. You can check out the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for writing and thank you for listening.
Campfire.